Hi, this is Kathi Quinn with Floriani. Floriani is a division of R&K Distributing, and I want to welcome you to this week's Project of the Week. Well, I have to tell you, I've been home the last couple of weeks actually, and I have been having a ball with my Total Quilter. Normally, I show FTCU, but this week I have had so much fun that I just have to share some stuff with y'all. Now I've decided I'm going to work on it this week and next week, and I'm going to give you a little surprise at the end. I'm going to tell you something way cool that I'm very excited about. But when you open up My Total Quilter, you're going to see it looks just like you've got a My Floriani Today page. So you can visit the myfloriani.club if you own the software and are a registered owner. You can access webinars, you can access software training, you can access the project competitions. They also have a block of the month. So you can access a lot of resources on this software. So what I want to do is I want to talk about today, we're going to talk about the purple icons. Now if you are a owner of My Decorative Quilter 2, you are very familiar with the rose-colored icons. These all have the My Decorative Quilter abilities. But My Total Quilter consists of the My Decorative Quilter 2. It consists of all the purple icons, which are our new ApplQuilt feature, which is absolutely phenomenal, and that's what we're going to look at today. And then it's got the blue icons, which is My Quilt Builder. So not only can you lay out your quilt, you can create your blocks, you can decorate them with all the stitches and stuff you want, and then the software will export not only stitch files but cut files for your fabrics. So it's pretty phenomenal and nobody has anything like it. This is a process that nobody has touched on yet, and I think you're going to love it. Now I'm going to look at, like I said, we're going to focus on these purple icons. We have come up with a way to quilt called ApplQuilt. So it's kind of like a cross between applique and quilting. What it does for us is it keeps us from having any bulk in our seams. We can use any shape we wish, circles, squares, triangles, half triangles. See, the problem with quilting in the hoop that we faced previously is everything has to be a straight line, because you have to stitch out a placement line, lay down your fabrics right sides together, stitch down a construction line, then fold it back, stitch down a tack down line, which adds a whole lot of seams and a whole lot of stitching to this. Well, with ApplQuilt, we have removed all that bulk in your quilt, as well as you can now use any shape you wish. So I think this is pretty exciting. So I'm going to come in here, and the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look at the ApplQuilt blocks. Now this week we'll focus on what we've already created for you. Next week we'll focus on how you can make any ApplQuilt block you want. So I'm going to click on this, and you will notice we've got lots of categories with lots and lots of blocks. You've got all kinds of blocks in here to work with. So you can have a lot of fun. Let's look at the fan blocks. Let me pick a fan block. Maybe not. Maybe I want to pick, let's look at these. Let's look at pinwheels, Mariner's Compass. Oh, there's just everything. Heart blocks. Oh, let's go to curved blocks, because I want to focus on the fact that you can do a curve. I'm going to grab these circle quarters and bring that block in. Now I want you to notice when I selected it, I neglected to pick a size. I could have, because I picked a size earlier of 8 by 8 on a block I was working on, so it remembered that because I have not closed the software. But I could make this block whichever size I wanted. Now we are not going to put it the finished size. We are only going to select the size we want the block to be before you've got seam allowance or anything added in, border, seam allowance, any of that. Now when it comes in, it's always going to come in with this railroad stitch, putting these pieces together. So what I'm going to do now is I may not want this railroad stitch. I may. If I want, I'm going to export this block and start stitching. But I might want to play with it a little bit. So I'm going to come in here, and again, I'm only concerned with purple icons. Nothing else on the page at this point. So I'm going to go to my select, and I'm going to select my stitches, and I'm going to hold down my control key and I'm going to select both at once. Now notice the minute I do that, up comes my motif run. So it's saying, Kathy, what stitch do you want to put there? So we have all of these wonderfully decorative stitches. We have lots and lots, and then we're going to come to some stitches in pink that DJ created from quilts that he looked at that had these type of decorative stitches on it. So with looking at these, he went ahead and created some more stitches for us to use within my Total Quilter. So I'm going to come down, and I saw the stitch I wanted. I want the little chicken feet, and I'm going to select that. Now the pattern size of that is 7. If I want to put more space between each of the motifs in this, I could put spacing in between them. But I'm going to make this pattern, I think I'm going to make it 8, and I'm going to apply. And now I've got my little chicken stitches all along the edge. If I don't like those, no problem. I could come in here and say, well, you know what? I'm really not fond of the chicken stitch. I want to use this stitch, and I can apply that. So again, you can audition the stitches you want to put on here. So I'm going to stick with this stitch right here. Now with that on there, I also can come in and I can select, I'm going to select the pink area, because these are 3 pieces of fabric, the quarter circle shapes, and then we have this shape in the middle. Now I might want to put some pretty stippling or decorative stitch on top of this. So I'm going to select that. I'm going to come down. I could come to my advanced stippling. I could come to echo quilting. So I could pick any of these options. Texture, auto stipple. Well, I'm going to go to advanced stippling because I like the fact that we've got all kinds of goodies in here. And I'm just going to pick, I'll pick stipple 3. Now with that, I could say, oh, I like that, or I could make that pattern larger or smaller, and I'm going to make my stitch length on this about a 3 and apply. So I now have how I want my block to stitch out. Now with ApplQuilt, it's absolutely a ball. What happens is it's going to stitch out the placement line for these 3 pieces onto your stabilizer. I use no show mesh fusible, and I put the fusible side up. Then I'm going to send to my cutter, because when I export this block, it's going to create all my cut files for me. So it's going to make it easy to send those to my digital cutter if I have one, and I highly recommend, if you don't, that you rush out and get one, because in doing this, everything is cut and everything is cut perfectly. I love it. So if I look at this, this is going to have 2 blue pieces and 1 pink piece fabric. So it's going to make the cutting files for those. So what I would absolutely do is I would put out the placement line. Then I would peel the back off my Appli stick or my Applique Wonder. Appli stick is our quilter's resource backing, or you could use Applique Wonder. I'm telling you, I'm starting to lean toward Appli stick for this. I've used both. I like both. But I just think I like the Appli stick just a little better, because remember, of course, Alex created all the Quilter's Select products so that we would have them for quilting specifically. So her whole goal in creating those stabilizers were to use them with quilting. So I'm a little bit leaning toward the Appli stick from Quilter's Select, because it has a little bit thinner feel. So I would iron my fabrics onto my Appli stick, and then I would run it through my digital cutter, be it a Scan and Cut, a Cameo, a SysX. We're machine agnostics. We love everybody. So we have the files for any of your cutters. So once I've got this all done and down, I could look at the 3D if I wanted to. I'm happy. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to select it over here in my sequence view. I'm going to make sure I've got this block all selected. Now notice, I'm going to deselect it for a moment. Notice that my Save Export AQ block is grayed out. That's because it doesn't know what I'm doing. So I'm going to select the block. Once I've selected it, notice now it's no longer grayed out. it's now ready for me to export the block. Now I'm going to left mouse click on this and it's going to create everything I need. We're going to call this a quarter circle. Project of the week. Now I'm going to give a seam allowance. Now in this, I'm going to put this one together like a traditional quilt because I want those circles, those quarter circles, to line up and give me circles all over my quilt. So I'm going to say I need a 1/4 inch seam allowance, which is standard. Then I'm going to tell it I'm running a baby lock or a brother. You can select whatever machine. Notice we also have all your quilters, all your quilt machines, your long arm quilting. So you have those files in here as well. So I'm going to go ahead and go to my PES. Now I'm going to cut this on my Scan and Cut. But I could save it as an SVG for my Cameo, my Sizzix, any of my others. And I'm going to export. Now when I export this, it's going to create all the files I need to do this quilt, and they're going to come up. Now here is, I'm going to have my stitch file right there. It says stitches. Notice that I've got the craft and cut files, which are my digital cutter files because I happen to have craft and cut software as well. So it's going to use that icon. But I'll show you real quick what all this is going to look like. So what I'll do is I will close, I'll close this down. And I'm actually going to close my program down. The reason is I'm going to reopen it. I want to refresh my library because it's going to save this into my library. At this time, I need to close the program and reopen it to refresh the library. Now, I could have accessed all those files by just going to File, Open, and going to the files. I didn't need to do this, but I want to show you this because I don't want it to become a frustration for you if you don't understand the library. If you're going to use it, has to be refreshed. So now I'm going to come over to my library. Notice I have an ApplQuilt. So I'm going to click on it. Now these are all the ApplQuilt blocks I have been creating. Now here's my 1/4 circle for the project of the week. I'm going to select it and I'm going to come in here to my designs, and I want you to see here is the WAF, just a stitch file. Here are artwork files to digitally cut out my artwork, and here is my stitch file. So first let's pull up the stitch file. Now notice I've got the 1/4 inch seam allowance. Let's look at what's going to happen. I'm going to hoop my no-show mesh fusible side up, and I'm going to go ahead and I will have ironed my fabric onto 8.5 by 11 sheets of our Appli. I would have run them through my digital cutter and I would have had perfectly cut pieces. I know they're going to fit perfect because I've sent them to a digital cutter. I could have also cut them out with my scissors. That wouldn't have been any reason why I couldn't. But if I'm going to do a whole quilt, I'm going to put as many of these things on a piece of paper as I can get, and I'm going to let the cutter cut them because I know they're going to be perfect. So now what will happen is this will stitch out directly onto that stabilizer. Now I'm going to, before we get there, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to peel the back off my Appli, and it's got a sticky back because it's been fused on one side it's fusible, the other side it's sticky. I'm going to peel that off and I'm going to lay these down within these placement lines, and they're going to go all the way to the edge. All the way to the edge. So I'll have those stuck down. Then what's going to happen is this is going to come in and it's going to stitch out all my stitches that I've selected. So now that block is stitched together. Now we're going to have, so this is my cut line, this is my stitch line, and now I have a perfect quilt block. So much fun, so awesome, so in the hoop. Now let me just show you this. Oh, I can't do it. I take it back. We're good. Now with this, I'm going to come back over here. I'm going to get up a new piece of paper, and I'm going to come back over here. And I'm going to drag, this is a cut file Okay, these are not stitches. These are what the cutter's going to cut out. Now what I do is I come in here to this artwork, because these blue ones are just artwork. That's all they are. I'm going to create a box, and notice over here in my sequence view so far everything's artwork. I'm going to say transform, and I'm going to say I need you to be 8.5. Whoops, let me deselect my maintain aspect ratio by 11. And the reason I'm doing that is because that is the size of a sheet of Applique Wonder or Quilter Select Appli-Stick. Now that I've got that, I'm going to fit it to screen. And what my goal is here is I am going to put as many of these on this piece that I can get, because I don't want to waste. Not only do I not want to waste fabric, I also don't want to waste any of my Appli-Stick. So I'm thinking, how many could I actually get in here? Maybe it is going to be the 2. Maybe I can only get 2 on this page. Let's just let's see, copy, let's paste. Let's see if I could get more than 2 on here. See, I should have made it a smaller block to wow you with my ability here. But I didn't, so this is where we are. And I can get 3 on here. Nope. I'm going to end up, this is really only going to hold 2, which is fine. So I'm going to move this over. And I will move it up here, because what I will do is I will just iron fabric on half of it, a little over half. And now I'm going to take my 8.5 by 11 line and delete it, because I don't want my cutter to cut that. And I'm going to say File, Export Artwork. Now, since I already had that file done and I couldn't work anymore onto my piece of paper, I could have used the file directly out of that the software had already created. I could have used that file directly and just saved it onto a jump drive. But since I tried to manipulate it, I'll show you if you could have made it fit more than 2. I would have come in here, and again, I would have gone for FCM, and I would have named this whatever color that fabric is. Let's say blue fabric. I find this keeps me from getting mixed up when I'm feeding it through the cutter. Now I'm going to save that, and I would have actually saved it to a jump drive. Now I'm going to plug it into my jump drive and cut that right out. I would have done the same with the other piece. Now I'm going to assume only one of those is going to fit on this 8.5 by 11 sheet, because I've used an 8-inch block. But those will be cut for you. Then we'll stitch out, stick them down, let the decorative stitching come, and let me tell you, I have been creating like a maniac with this stuff because it's been so much fun. I've been washing to see if this stuff holds together. It holds together fantastic. And now for my exciting news. We are going to have a quilting hands-on. We've been doing embroidery hands-on for 4 years. Well, we're going to add another aspect. So we have created 4 blocks for you using ApplQuilt, using your embroidery machine with applique, with 3-dimensional embroidery. You're going to love it. We're going to have a hands-on where you'll get to come in and you'll get to stitch out your blocks. Then we are also going to show you different ways to put them together, because a lot of times we'll do blocks and stuff and then people go, yeah, but how can I put them together? Well, we're going to teach you about quilt as you go. We're going to teach you about doing circles. We're just going to have a lot of fun. Debbie has created some beautiful stuff with some gorgeous embellishment that y'all are really going to enjoy. So look forward to your dealer booking our quilting hands-on class for y'all to do, so we can create a beautiful table piece with our Total Quilter software. Well, I look forward to seeing you next week. Now, this weekend, I will be in Salt Lake City at Nuddles doing a hands-on. If you are interested, please call Nuddles and sign up. I look forward to seeing you. We'll be doing 6 projects, learning all kinds of new embroidery techniques. So I look forward to seeing you there. And I look forward to seeing you next week at the Project of the Week.